So this woman was shocked when she looked out her back window to see a little boy burying something strange in the ground. She had just bought the foreclosed home, and so the backyard was still overgrown. He thinks no one lives here, she reasoned, and so she called out to him from the window. Excuse me, she hollered. Startled, the boy pocketed whatever he was burying and hopped on his bicycle. My mother told me to plant these in the garden, the little boy huffed as he pedaled away. Although puzzled, the woman was sure he wouldn't be back. But as a precaution, she mowed the lawn that very same day. That way, he'd know someone lives there. But as she mowed, her eyes grew wide. Hiding beneath the tall grass were rows and rows of raised garden beds. He couldn't have meant this garden, could he? She pondered. But her uncertainty fizzled away the very next day, when, lo and behold, the little boy was back. You there, she yelled, this time stepping out through the back door. Yet again, he pocketed the object and rode off. I'm sorry, the little boy squeaked. My mother said to plant these in the garden when we get home. Frustrated, the woman yelled back, well, plant them in your garden then. But the boy said nothing as he pedaled away. What in the world is he trying to bury? She wondered. That's when she did something she knew would keep him away for good. With a sledgehammer in hand, she dismantled the raised garden beds one by one. That ought to do it, she panted, tossing the final board in the trash bin. Sure enough, the boy didn't show the next day, or the next. But on the third day, just as she thought he was gone for good, a strange note appeared on her front doorstep. She lifted it up. Please plant these in the garden for my mother. Sincerely, Benny. Beneath the note was a bundle of sprouting turnips. You can't be serious, the woman sputtered. That's when she noticed an address printed on the note's letterhead. With it came an idea. I think it's time I go talk to his mother myself, she resolved. And so off she went. Her GPS brought her to a large brick building just down the road. But to her surprise, a small elderly nun answered the door. Hi there, she smiled. Can I help you? Yes, please, the woman cleared her throat. I'm here to speak with Benny's mother. That's when the nun's smile faded. After a long pause, she sighed. I'm sorry to ask, but do you know what this building is for? I suppose not, the woman puzzled. I just moved to the area, the nun nodded. This, my dear, is Hope Stevens' orphanage, she said in a soft whisper. I'm sorry to say, but Benny's mother and father were both killed in a tragic car accident last month. The woman's hands began to tremble, words escaping her as she clenched the turnips. The nun continued. Would you like to speak with him? The woman shook her head, fighting back the tears. Not yet, but I promise to return soon. Her guilt only grew as she returned home to a trash bin piled high with wooden planks from the garden beds. With Benny's note in her pocket, she spent the rest of the afternoon rebuilding, laying soil and planting the turnips, carefully tending to the garden each day until it was time for harvest. Then, with a bag full of fresh turnips, she returned to the orphanage. There, in the front yard, were Benny and the little old nun. Excuse me, but I believe these are yours. The woman smiled as she revealed the turnip bag from behind her back. The turnips, Benny gasped, and his face lit up with pure joy. Tears filled his eyes as he wrapped his arms around the woman's legs. She told me to plant these in the garden when I got home, but we never went back home. And now that she isn't here anymore, that's your home now. But if she could see these turnips, I know she'd be proud of me. Her, and my father too. The woman's eyes welled as she kneeled beside Benny. Little did he know that in the weeks it took to grow the turnips, she had been working on his adoption paperwork with the nun. You're right about your parents being proud, the woman said. But there's one thing you forgot. Benny's eyes grew wide with wonder as he peered up at her. It's not just my home, she smiled. And that's because it's still your home too.